It was a good week. First of all, be able to welcome back over 40 alums this past weekend. That was, really special, and it was always a good time to connect. Meet a lot of some of the older ones, or some. We had some that were in their 70s that were here, and ones that got the start of Title IX, and then all the way up till to recent grads, and just sit around and telling stories of the different generations, and was just really, really special and neat. And we were going into our practice the other day for serve and pass before match, and and seeing fans that are already lining up 5.5 hours before the match time. It never ceases to amaze me how incredible our fan base is, and they were certainly great this past week. Really good week of being able to beat Nebraska and Minnesota, go 6-1 in sets. Great week, a fantastic week for Sarah Franklin. I think two of the best defenses in the Big Ten. To 5.5 kills per set, hitting 265, and to pass at 2-3. With just a ton of serves coming our way. I mean, it was just a fantastic week for her, and to go against two of the best teams, and to be able to hold Nebraska under 80 points below their season average in the Big Ten, and Minnesota 60 points under their Big Ten average. You can see the difference of the improvement that our defense has been making the past few weeks. That's been a big emphasis for us, and I thought defensively we were awfully solid. We've got an Illinois team in front of us who we went 5 with earlier in the season. They're right there knocking on the door of being able to be an NCAA tournament team, and an Indiana team that will play also a second time, that's quietly having probably the best season they've had in quite a while. So excited about this coming week and the opportunities in front of us.
I just wanted to kind of check on your Libro to get the pronunciation right this time. Gigi, how is she, and do you have any idea of a time frame when maybe she'll be back?
No, don't have a time frame. It's one of those, it's a position that she plays, and how she kind of throws her body around, and the length of our season. I've never been a big fan of trying to, I don't know. Let me go at it a different way. I prefer our players to be 100% before they come out there and hit the floor. And, so we're not going to rush her back, the medical staff, or certainly I'm not going to be putting any pressure. She's an important player for us. But as you can see, we have some real good talent and depth behind her that I thought did a really good job. I thought Chanel was fantastic. Stepping in Minnesota, and they tested her right out of the gate. She passed a couple dimes, and then they stayed away from her the rest of the match. And then I thought defensively she was awfully good. But Gulce, whenever she's back, she's back. I haven't heard anything today about where things are. But I think in the meantime, we'll the people that are able to practice, they'll be ready.
But I guess you kind of touched on, the second time around with Illinois, and I'm wondering, what areas you might be looking for growth from the first time. I mean, obviously, different teams present different challenges. What maybe were some ways that they hurt you last time, that you want to kind of see how your team responds to second opportunity facing them?
Yeah, the first set, I think they hit over 300 against us, which is not something that you would really like. But I think one of the things that we did as the match went on is their hitting percentage came down. I think the fourth set they made a slight move up, but overall it was going down. I think we hit pretty high percentage for the 5 sets. It's. I think one of their outsides came out on fire the first couple sets, and we had a really tough time with her. I think we did a little bit better job as the match was going on with her. But I mean, they're a dangerous team. I mean, Raina Terry is I think she's leading the league in points per set right now. And just a big arm and really dangerous behind the service line. Mosier's done a really good job. She was the outside that I was talking about earlier that had a really nice first couple sets against us. They've got some experience in some other positions, setting positions, middle, very experienced. So. But man, behind the service line, they can really kind of give you fits. And like I said, I mean, they've got one of the best take out the trash players in the country in Terry. I mean, she cleans up an awful lot of stuff for them and just hits at a very high level. So, I hopefully we'll be able to be a little bit better out of the gates defensively, but. There is I would say it'd probably start there.
Kelly, I apologize in advance for the giant cliche here, but when you beat two top 10 opponents one week, any part of you concerned about a letdown the next week?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. Concern is not something. No. To answer your question, no, I'm not concerned, and. Our players have been through a lot of big matches. They know what the Big Ten is. If you have Big Ten championship aspirations, you can't take a week off, and that's what leaders of a team are for. It's they're there to make sure that you enjoy your day off, you get away, and then when it's time to get back in the gym, which it will be today, that there is an intensity and a focus. What you hope is as you go through the season, that you get more and more excited about the opportunities that are in front of you, not getting relaxed and things. But I haven't seen anything from our players that would show that there should be concerned. But we'll see.
Kelly, you said before the Nebraska game that you were going to use it as an indicator to see where the team is at after that win, and then after the Minnesota win. What were some big takeaways that you had getting to look more in depth into the film?
Well, I think this team has been tested, right, over and over again. I think on one hand, I think we've got I don't think anybody has more top 25 wins or top 50 wins in the country than what we have on one hand. But on the other hand, you can see all the things that we've got to do to get better, and it's a race. For that is how I look at it. It's a race to see how much better we can get at these things we need to get better at. Is this team capable of challenging, competing for a Big Ten title? Absolutely, but not if we stay kind of where we are. We've got to continue to get better. What was impressive to me is has been the resiliency part. I'm not sure we were quite there earlier in the year. To be frank with you, I think if we got shoved a little bit. You could tell on our body language and how we communicated, how we worked together, that we seem to be under stress in some of those moments. Where I think we've worked through that, and we actually seem in those moments to be a lot more comfortable and working together. And that's a big part of it, because if you want to play in big matches, you've got to be able to play in tight situations, and I think we're getting a lot better at that.
I got one. The NCAA committee released their second ranking yesterday after not being in the ranking the first time around. You're 7th. Is that something you look ahead to or don't even worry about with 8 matches left in the Big Ten?
Yeah, it's again, there's a couple things. We have so much stuff in front of us, right? I mean, we still have another month, and so you can't get too worked up about anything. It's probably a little bit lower than probably what I would have thought, based off a couple of stats I threw out earlier. But these people are spending way more time looking at this stuff than I am. So there's a trusting element that I would say that they probably have a better grasp on the other teams than probably what I do. I think you start to take a little bit of a look at it right now, because each committee kind of what they value is a little bit different. But I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to continue to get better. You got to control what you can control, and we got to keep finding ways to win.